There's not one guy, one person in the history of this program that's bigger than the program.
What's better than this? Guys being dudes.
What's up, and welcome into episode number post-game pod edition of the Program Guys podcast. My name is Mason Prince, joined with you as always by Mark Hall, Matt Gann, Patrick Hertzberger, Ryan Tyson. Today is Sunday, September 15th. Be sure to like and subscribe on our YouTube channel. You can also follow us on all of our social media at Program Guys with a Z on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all of that good stuff. Also find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts as well. Gentlemen, how we doing? Oklahoma comes off of a win. They cover.
It's a cover.
They cover. What was the final? 38-19?
34-19.
34-19.
Yep.
Sooners
so
cover.
They cover even if you got in early.
Yep. Sooners win. And they are 3-0. Whether you like it or not, they're 3-0. Yeah. And it was an interesting game. Started off what felt like just the way you draw it up, and then slowly turned.
I only watched the first half, really. I had a fall wedding yesterday. So hold on. I hate when my camera does
Criminal.
that. I had a fall wedding yesterday, so we had to bail around the second half. And so I want to tell you guys what I noticed yesterday. Once Logan Howland left the game, the offensive line looked fantastic. They were getting push. They were driving people up the field. They were creating holes for, whoa, didn't Taylor Tatum look good? Thank God he got so much early run. Deion Burks was engaged in the game plan. Jackson Arnold looked fantastic. We had the easy buttons. The first play of the game is that dumb little swing route out to Gavin Sawchuk. He's wide open because that's an easy, dumb little play. That's why you have plays like that in the playbook. Man, it just looked so smooth. Defensively was everything you wanted to see. They weren't letting Mario Williams get the top off of him. Fleming wasn't breaking too many plays. As good as Mekhi Hughes and Mensah are, we were keeping those guys in check. I leave to a, 21-6 halftime score?
Mm-hmm.
What happens? What happens, guys?
I mean, they scored at the end of the half.
Yeah, but no, they didn't.
No.
It was 21-6. They did score at the end of the half, but they scored 6 points at the end of the half.
Mm-hmm.
They reverted back to what they were doing last week. And this is very similar to what happened with the Houston game. I mean, we didn't score in the second half of the Houston game, I don't believe. And we had that third quarter was awful. Just genuinely awful. And I think there's a lot of reasons for it that we can get into when we start talking about the offensive side of the ball. I think the defensive side of the ball kind of fell apart that quarter as well. And then kind of started to get that back toward the fourth quarter. But it was just reverting back to like what we were doing. It's like we lost all of that momentum. And I think I messaged you guys this yesterday. It feels like this team, when we have momentum and we're moving with a good pace, we can put together some really good plays. And we saw that in the first half on the offensive side of the ball. And then when we lose a tiny bit of momentum, we just screech to a halt, and then everything falls apart.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like there's no balance. It's like we can't play a balanced game. So I think we're going to dive into a little bit more on details on that, but I think ultimately we just reverted back to what we were doing the Houston game in that third quarter.
Let's just dive into the offense, Pat. What did you see out of the offense?
Yeah, first I just want to put it in perspective, though. When we played Tulane in 2021, we won that game 40-35 with a 10th ranked Oklahoma team and an incredible, or what we thought was an incredible offense. I would take our 34-19 win over that 2021 win any day, any day. So while I am unsatisfied with a lot of the play yesterday, to put it into, when you put it into perspective like that, we are doing fine. From an offensive perspective, just still really unsatisfied with the run game. I don't think it's near to what it needs to be. I'm really glad Taylor Tatum got involved early. I don't understand what Gavin Sawchuk at this point has over Taylor Tatum besides maybe blocking better. but Taylor will get there. So in my opinion, just run Barnes and Taylor from now on moving forward. I thought Jackson overall had a decent game. It sucks that we did have to show his running capabilities earlier than we wanted to. Seth Luttrell mentioned that after the game. Still some rookie-ish decision-making from him, but overall better. Don't love how much we're running him either. Wish we didn't have to do that. But at this point, with 5 really good receivers down in a run game that doesn't really work well, we have to do it. And Jackson stepped up to the plate and did it well yesterday.
Matt?
I got this fortune yesterday, and I think it applies to the
God.
OU offense. It says, celebrate your progress, no matter how small it may seem. And we did see a little bit of progress in the first half, a much better run game. The first drive was 12, 14 plays, took over 7+ minutes.
14.
14 plays.
Nice.
If that's how the offense is going to be, we're so used to a high power, high tempo offense where we are having these explosive plays down the field and we have like 2 to 3 minute drives. Maybe the changing of the offense, this is the identity where we have to grind it out, almost kind of have these types of drives that can be sustained to also help our defense as well. 45 carries on the ground for about 4 yards per rush. That's probably what we're going to see out of the run game, unless somehow the offensive line can get healthy and get to a better way where they're pushing. Maybe that's where the run game just has to be enough to be able to be respectable. So Jackson Arnold, like you saw him yesterday, could do a little bit of read option and keep it himself. But you have to have at least a respectable run game to do that. I think the biggest problem with this offense, and something that really tells me in the stat, JA went 19 of 30, less than 50, or a little bit more than 50% completion, but only 5.6 yards per pass. What that's telling me is that this team
You're including the Taylor
throw.
Tatum pass.
Sure, if you want to include that, fine. But what
No,
that
you are
still
with
means,
your math. That's all.
it's still very low. Can we agree on that, Mark?
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Mark. This team cannot stretch the ball down the field. I think we always saw one play where he threw it down the field, and it was to Deion Burks. Probably the last guy you want to throw over the top unless he's – or to Petaway, correct. Thank you, Mark. But the team, if you saw Tulane, all of their defenders were within 10 to 12 yards of the line. That tells you that they don't respect the deep ball and that explosive play. That's really the problem with these offenses. They can't generate 20+ yards pass plays or plays that would be explosive enough. It's going to be we're going to get exposed, I think, next week. Tennessee's got way better athletes. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but this team just can't generate explosive plays.
Yeah, they can't.
I think we're all ignoring Nick Anderson's absence too much.
Yeah.
Like everything,
I was about to
everything
mention it.
That's part of it.
completely
That's part
flips,
of
man.
it.
You go, Deion Burks has 7 catches. Bauer Sharp's the next guy with 4. Bauer's a capable guy, but he stops at the sticks and turns around. And that's what you want him to do. Nick Anderson's going to unlock a lot of new stuff for this offense next week, I think.
I don't disagree, but devil's advocate, Jackson Arnold hasn't been consistent enough to think that once Nick Anderson's in the field, every deep ball is going to hit his hands.
Oh, sure. And I don't think he's necessarily going to be the one running all those deep balls. But I think having him lets you do that with Deion Burks a little bit easier, with Jaquez Petaway a little easier, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, who did I text and say that we saw out there playing wide receiver late?
Carry on, right?
Ivan? Yeah. Ivan Carry on.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like
he got snaps week 1.
Yeah.
I mean, just I don't know, man. I agree. Nick Anderson's going to unlock a lot for this offense, I think, but this offensive line is not good. And I'm here to tell you, Brent will say it, and I agree with him. When you're starting 2s and 3s and guys aren't performing well and playing out of position, that's an issue. I can understand that. But dear God, man, there were guys, forget about starting 2nd and 3rd string guys. Those guys, forget about technique. They're not winning one-on-one battles. You're seeing the left tackle end up 5 yards in the backfield right after the snap. I don't care if you're 2 or 3 or not. You can't do that. That blows up the entire play. And Jackson Arnold should not have thrown that interception at all. Like, it's partly on the offensive line. That's also on him. Good on Seth Luttrell not letting him off the hook for that. You can't throw that pass. That's all. Number one, you're late. Number two, you're off balance. You can't throw that ball. But the offensive line didn't help. And they're getting no push in the run game, which is where you should be getting the most push. You're firing off the ball. You're not having to pass set. How many times did we see Javonte Barnes get the ball and then have to pause when he got to the line of scrimmage because his fat offensive linemen aren't moving? They're just standing there stagnant. The offensive line has got to be better, and I know that I'm beating a dead horse. Everybody agrees. I'm not saying anything that people don't already know, but no matter who's out there, you got to at least get somebody to move their feet, because what I saw yesterday, you're going to get eaten alive in a pass rush. And Tulane figured it out in the second half. We saw what the difference is. That was the main difference, was they were able to get a pass rush. I don't know what the thinking is behind Bill Bedenbaugh. I'm not in practice or anything, but Eddie Pierre-Louis got to give you something, as opposed to the guys who aren't giving you jack crap out there. He's got to be able to give you at least something. It's brutal. The left tackle play stood out above all, but the guards were quite poor as well. Very, very bad.
The whole left side is just, no matter who it is, no matter what the configuration is, right? Which Jake you have in what place, wherever Sexton's lining up, it's inconsistent. It's a young, injured line with a young quarterback. And I think that gets to a lot of what Ryan was saying earlier, where they can't drive on momentum, because if anything happens, they're immediately back to, being a young, inexperienced line and quarterback. And it's very tough. One thing that I want to bring to this enlightening offensive line conversation is Tennessee comes in with maybe the best defensive line in college football. And it's deep. It's deep. Their starters only have to play like 20 snaps a game at defensive end, because they've got dudes coming in all the time. It's going to be a real problem next week.
Back to Mark. Yeah, go ahead, Mason.
Just the one thing that I have, it's a terrible feeling when we get an interception in the fourth quarter and the offense is coming out there, and I feel bad about the offense coming out on the field after a turnover. I go
on our side of the field.
On our side of the field, I collectively let out a sigh, like, oh boy, here we go. Like, what are we even going to do now? Like, after a turnover, you have the ball in your own territory. That should be the best I feel about this offense. And it's quite honestly the worst. It's infuriating. It really is. Sorry, Pat, go ahead.
No, I agree with all that. I was just going to bring that point out with momentum. You need to get momentum when you're down in these types of games, and this offense is not doing it for us. You cannot throw an interception and then go 3 and out within 30 seconds and get the defense back on the field. That's not how you're going to win big football games.
Yeah, 3 and out's got to stop, Matt.
Well, and OU is better on third down convergency, but I think it was more in the first half than it was the second half, because in the first half, the first drive, we started 3 for 3 and obviously scored. And we ended up 8 for 16 overall, which we were dead last in the FBS coming into this game. We're one of the worst teams on third down conversion. But I'm sure there was a difference between the first half third downs versus the second half, because we had a lot more 3 and outs, just like we did in the Houston game. And to RT's point, we reverted back to that same old offense where it was very stagnant. The play calling wasn't great, no push in the run game, and Tulane's defensive line just pretty much had the field day in that second half. And we keep bringing it up. Tennessee's got the number one probably prospect in the entire country, in James Pierce. He's gonna have a freaking field day against our left side if they don't figure it out. And hopefully we get Hickman. Hopefully we get these guys healthy enough. But I just don't know if it's going to be enough against a much better quality team. And if you can't sustain drives, it's only going to continue to hurt your defense.
One thought on Jackson. With how he regards to the offensive line. How come we haven't been running this read option instead of the BS Jack offense that we've been playing for the last 3
Well,
weeks.
and the vibe, to answer that question, the vibe that Latrell gave post game was that it was they were hiding it. Really, they didn't want to have to get into it, and obviously, there's a reason they didn't want to get into it. Jackson can read it really well, and he can run it really well. Why not save that card? But I mean, again, that's what you had to do. Sorry, go ahead, Mark.
No, and I hear that from a coach, and I'm like, oh, you had to hide it so much that you couldn't beat Houston by a little bit more. Like
we were in the trenches with Houston.
Break in case of emergency. Break in case of emergency with some of this. It looks fantastic. So that I like that a lot more than just running him, between the tackles the way that we still did.
Yeah, he needs to slide. Also, like, stop putting your shoulder down.
He's gonna get hurt if he keeps. Yeah, he's gonna get hurt.
Just slide.
He's not bigger than these guys like he was in high school.
Yeah, he's really not. And it's stressful to watch. Every time I'd see replays and he'd go head first and dive down, and like the initial tackle is not the bad thing. It's when he's held up and the people start to pile on him. That's the bad stuff.
Yeah.
Like, avoid those and slide. That's what you need to do. Or just
They're
dive.
Gonna get a Sage Rosencopter on him at some point. The way
Dude, I know. It's so stressful. But yeah, the one final thing I have, Deion Burks at one point had like, I can't remember. He had like 5 catches for like, I think 30 something yards again, like 35 or 40 yards. Like that's his game. And to the Nick Anderson point, Nick Anderson is the exact opposite of that. He gives you more of a threat vertically. Deion's not going to be that guy. He's not going to be the guy to just go deep and give you 15 yards, 20 yards to catch. He's just not. But I did like we kind of shifted more, especially in the first half, to a little more of a 10-yard, 12-yard passing game that was literally just Deion Burks get to the middle field, shut it down, and Jackson find him. Like, I'm cool with that. That's fine. Do that with Deion. But the swing passes and the screens and all that, it's got to be, it's too vanilla. It's just way too vanilla right now.
He's Drake Stoops. That's what he said when they brought him in, that's the role I'm supposed to play, right? And he can't really right now. It's very 2022 Drake Stoops up in this right now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Anything else on the offense before we head over to defense?
Just a couple things. I do not understand why we are not putting Taylor Tatum in almost every single snap. The dude is electric, and he's the best running back we have right now. I truly believe that.
He falls forward for 3 yards every single time.
I
got more carries than
Salcha. I do not understand why in this second half that we were just like screeching to a halt. We still had other people in, and he was nowhere to be found. I don't understand that. I think that this Tulane team is actually pretty good, and I think we all talked about that beforehand, but I do want to give the team credit for how they played in that first half. I think that offense played great.
I agree.
I don't understand how you go from that to just like completely reverting back to where you were. I think that's in coaching. I think there is some, I think the best word that it just feels kind of undisciplined, which is very interesting considering like who our coach is and stuff and how he speaks about discipline all the time. But on the offensive side of the ball, it's just like undisciplined. And I feel like it kind of started with that field goal kick when we got delay of game.
That's on
the very end.
That's
I know,
on
but it's just it's like that stuff can't happen. And then you have like stupid penalties, and you just feel it doesn't feel clean. And I feel like that was a huge issue in the third quarter, because not only are those things happening, but then you also can't get any momentum because of those things happening and because your play calling has gone so soft. And so like that third quarter needs to be erased, and it needs to be better. And I think we've all talked about that. You guys have all made the great points. On the offensive line and the wide receivers, we're very
real fast. That field goal situation was disgusting.
It was gross.
Disgusting. You bring in a special teams coach. You're Brent Venables. You're taking a step back from the defense. You have
Yeah.
to be on top of that.
It's gross. So we're incredibly injured. I mean, like the wide receiver group is just like who got
Zion
hurt?
Curry.
Who got Brennan Thompson got hurt on the first drive, right?
Yeah, but then why is he back in the game?
I don't
in
know.
Garbage time.
Why
does he go back in?
I have no idea. But I mean, you're talking Julio Farouk, Nick Anderson, Brennan Thompson, like
Antrell
Anthony, who didn't play. I mean, like that entire room that we talk so highly about in the preseason is gone. Like there's no one there. And I think like Mark makes a great point that our offense relies at least 50%, probably more on our passing game, and all of our weapons are gone. So it's like, what are we actually able to do? And so I do give credit to the offense for what they were able to do in that first half, being able to utilize the weapons that they had. But then they just kind of lost momentum there. And then the offensive line is atrocious. I think I said the word atrocious yesterday so many times. Really bad play. Bill B's got to get that cleaned up. I don't care if these are second or third stringers. I know we need people healthy, but the amount of times that we got a rush where there was not a single block on a guy, like when they rushed us and not a single block, like you're not even in the right position to get beat. You just get destroyed because you're not there or you're in the wrong spot. That can't happen. So I thought overall JA played pretty well. I think he did much better this week than he did against Houston. Other than that interception, I mean, yes, part of that is on his fault. Part of it is on he's getting no help from his offensive line. So yeah, I think overall, I think there's happy things with the offense. This team did cover somehow. And I think we have a lot of stuff to learn from, but I think there's two big points right now that we're focused on, and that's offensive line and our receivers. And I think a lot of that is injury based.
All right, we need to move on to the defense, but I'll give anybody one more shot on the offense. We good? Okay. Over on the defensive side, I was impressed. That's a good Tulane offense. That's a Tulane offense that went into Manhattan last week and threw for
in New Orleans, 300. I think.
Oh, you're right. No, you're right. You're right. They're in Louisiana. I said that during the pregame too. They threw for like 370 yards. They're a good offense, and to hold him 14 to 32, 166 yards. Good. That's great. That's really, really good. Shout out to the secondary. I thought they played very well. I liked what I saw out of the secondary. Woody Washington, another great game from him. Billy Bowman had the pick, obviously, always around the ball. Go ahead, Mark.
On Woody, he was starting at Cheetah, right?
I think he was.
I thought
basically in the slot.
I thought it was almost Ego that did.
Okay,
they were both in there.
Oh no, you're right, Matt. Matt's right. It was almost
yeah.
I
know Sammy is the generally the backup, but they're playing Woody all over the place, man.
Yeah,
I just find that very interesting, very cool.
Allowed 100 yards rushing, but they had the touchdown. Obviously, the two touchdowns on offense, the one also on the pick six. But I liked the way that we looked defensively a ton. If I'm being picky, the pressure was not there, especially through the first 3.5 quarters, and that's got to get shored up. It's because when you're fresh like that, I gotta have some sort of pressure. R. Mason Thomas, where were you during the R. Mason Thomas game? What a game from him, dude. That was amazing fourth quarter from him. Yeah, I really liked what I saw. Danny Sutzman again was everywhere. I can't remember what his tackles were. He led the team again with 12. He's freaking everywhere, man. I just don't.
And then we yanked him out at certain times during the fourth quarter, and I was very confused.
He was out in the first half for like a series or two, just not in. And they were running a Kobe McKenzie, Kip Lewis linebacking core. And I was like, oh yeah, it's just
first half I'm less annoyed about because we kind of had control of the game at the point. But like the second half when things were getting a little little close, a little dicey, we yanked him out. And I'm like, why are you taking out your best player?
and then we got
I don't understand
intercepted,
this.
but
It,
whatever.
guys, do we remember when he goes down last season and we lose to Oklahoma State because we got dudes who aren't ready to play linebacker yet, forced to play maybe the best running back in football? They're doing the right thing by reducing Danny's snaps. Even if he wants to be a sourpuss about it, like get off the field, let these other guys get reps and take a break.
Yeah.
Like you're still going to end up with 12 tackles. You're still the best player on the field 95% of plays. Just take the break because it's easily the best decision in the long run. Shout out Kobe McKenzie yesterday. From what I saw, he played a great game.
I loved what I saw from Kobe McKenzie. He was confident. I really liked it. I liked it all of the linebackers that we saw yesterday. Even Jaron Kanak at the beginning of the game got some burn. I thought he was very good as well. Thought he read some things correctly, which is his calling card to not do, is to go in the wrong hole in the run game. And I think he did some good stuff.
Number of snaps now.
Yeah, I know.
It's really great.
Yeah, he is. Matt, what'd you see out of the defense, man?
Defense held this team to 13 points overall and half of the amount of yardage that they had last week. Mason, to your point that you alluded to. So coming off a game where Tulane was pretty hot down there against Kansas State, who Kansas State normally has a pretty good defense, and for OU to hold up the way they did, especially in the second half when there wasn't those sustained drives like we had in the first half of the game from the offense. But I think quietly, two guys that had really good games was Samuel Omosigo playing Cheetah, in start of Dolby, who Dolby has been very good the first 2 weeks. So that was a pretty big spot for him to fill in. Thought he did really well. And also Des Malone. He has just been a shutdown corner. That guy from San Diego State who was graded the #1 corner last year in coverage. I mean, he just locks down one side of the field, and you're not going to get a whole lot coming on his side. Now, again, bigger challenge next week with a much better opponent. Want to see how he holds up. I think those two games quietly had really good games, along with DeJoun Terry, who's just a mammoth of a guy on that defensive line. And also Spears Jennings was all over the place as well, along with Danny making plays and being in the right spot. So you couldn't really ask for more other than generating more sacks. I mean, our Mason Thomas had the only 3 sacks of the game, but came in the fourth quarter. They just weren't getting after the quarterback like they should have been, and you just can't give other quarterbacks time like that. They're just going to be able to pick you apart, because Tulane, to be honest, there were about 2 or 3 passes deep that could have connected, that could have wildly changed the outcome of the game. And some of those guys were beat, like Kanai Walker was beat on that first half play down the sideline. So they were 1 or 2 plays down the field from this game being completely different. They've got to be able to get to the quarterback quicker and cause turnovers and sacks on the opposing offense. But I think they held up and did exactly what they needed to.
They dropped like a 40-yard pass in the second half, didn't they? There was a play I thought that they were in between the safeties, and he kind of threw it behind him, and he had to bend down.
Well, he shorted him a little bit.
Yeah, shorted him a little bit. Pat, what'd you see, brother?
Matt honestly said everything I was going to say. So, Matt, great job. Pressure. We need more pressure, especially in certain situations. I want to see more of it. Zach should draw it up.
Yeah. Des Malone was a good point, Matt.
Go ahead, Mace.
I was
think
just
we're going to see. I think we're going to see some more exotic stuff next week. We've been fairly vanilla on defense. You know, we're not sending a lot of weird blitzes. People aren't dropping back into coverage in weird ways. We're playing them straight up, and we've got the guys to play these guys straight up. Next week's going to be when, all right, let's try and not be so straight up about it. Let's send some weird stuff. Let's drop defensive linemen, fit in weird places, all this fun stuff that Brent draws up and has in his bag. And the defense, unlike the offense, is healthy enough to do stuff like that. We haven't spoken about Peyton Bowen, but that punt return, you understand why you're getting these guys opportunities like that, because we have a lot of guys like that on defense. Man, we haven't said Robert Spears Jennings' name yet, but he's second in tackles, and I think that's every week now. He gets in on every single play. He plays so well, and he's the third guy between Billy Bowman and Peyton Bowen in a lot of our conversations around the safety position. I just think you can't be anything but pleased with the way the defense played. You go 6 points, 7 points, 6 points in the second, third, and fourth quarter, you're going to win games.
Yeah.
Holding teams to that. One more final. The Grayson Halton chase down as the quarterback is scrambling to the left reminds me so much of the Danny Stutzman chase down 2 seasons ago on Jordan Travis, the Florida State quarterback, during that bowl game. Just one of those like, oh, you've got something sort of different. Like that speed is not really normal for the position. I don't know if it means Grayson Halton is going to be an all-timer, but he's looked fantastic through 3 games, and I think that was just a more of a show of what he can do.
Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody's made really great points about the defense. I think they had probably two bad drives that gave up touchdowns, but holding this team to 13 points. I mean, I looked this up, but I'm pretty sure Tulane ran like 500 yards of offense on Kansas State last week, and I'm pretty sure we kept them under 300 or so. This is a good Tulane team. This is a good offense, and I think people underestimate how good this offense is for this Tulane team. That's a good quarterback. They got a receiver. Is his name Fleming? Is that the receiver? And then their running back's pretty good too. I think my biggest complaint, like you guys have said, is the rush. I think that their O-line was doing everything that our O-line needed to do and was not able to do. Protect the quarterback, because it always felt like we were like half a second away from a sack. But like that's all it takes is a half a second to protect the quarterback a little bit longer, and he's able to get off those throws. And I agree with Matt that you put a little bit more experienced of a quarterback, a little bit better of a quarterback, and a little bit better of a receiving group, and they are going to make those 40-yard throws that he missed about 3 of.
Yeah.
And Tennessee's a team that's going to do that. So like we have to be able to get pressure on our opponent's quarterbacks. And I know we can. I've seen it before. You saw it in the fourth quarter that we were able to do it. So I think we just need to be a little bit more creative. But y'all, this is a really good defense. Like I think this defense can keep us in any game. I really do. And if the offense allows it to actually get a breather, is like the real thing. If we don't go 3 and out every single time and they have no time to rest.
No.
But overall, really happy with the defensive play, other than, a couple things here and there, a couple nitpicky things. But pretty happy.
Mario Williams back-to-back 100-yard games, 3 catches for 36 yards in this game. So really, really good on the secondary again. Playing very, very well. I'm excited to see and Gentry Williams comes back next week, reportedly. So
I feel like all these guys have been coming back every week and then we never see them. So
I just the warming up and like looking good in warm-ups. What does that mean?
Yeah, that's all Brent says. He's like,
what is that?
They look good in warm-ups.
It's funny because it like sounds like fine when he says it out loud, but if you like read it and think about it, it's like, what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like,
what?
what?
I don't understand, man.
Yeah.
I don't know. But real quick on the special teams, Peyton Bowen, the fun punt return, 24-yard punt return looked really good after the questions last week. Again, I think it was the lighting. I think the lighting played a factor last week. I think it being a night game and them not used to it, I think that might have affected it a little bit.
You better get used to it for next week.
I agree. But I thought he looked good. And then again, perfect day from the kicker as well.
Keltner, baby.
Keltner hit his extra points and hit his field goals.
And he
10
also
points.
hit that 50-yard field goal that got waved off. So
he did. He did hit that, and he crushed it.
He crushed it.
Crushed it.
Yep.
I think I saw
we can't take a
where,
damn timeout.
I think I saw a quote where Brent blamed Keltner for not kicking it on time.
They said the snap was late, but like Brent needs to be better there. Like he has to.
Yeah.
I mean, these are 18,
does.
19-year-old kids. Like you have to be the coach here and take that timeout if they're not doing it.
I love Brent, but that seems like a case of a guy just not able to criticize himself a little bit.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's a case of like, I got to be better.
Like, I don't
And
care if the snap is late. You're like, look at the play clock
Yeah.
and do this.
yeah,
All of us at
It's-
home were able to do it.
you had 3 timeouts. You had all of them.
Mhm.
Use one of them to
Yeah.
avoid that. And then usually the refs give you the opportunity to be like, oh, hey, did you want to use a timeout after they throw the flag? And you can kind of be like, yeah, I was going to call timeout and you didn't see me, and they'll give you the benefit of the doubt. He didn't even do that. He was just like, yeah, I'll take the 5. What the hell is that?
And then I think even Keltner could have made it 55 potentially.
Yes.
Me too.
The way
His
he
50
hit
yard
that
sweep-
50, the
Yeah,
way he
it
hit that
cleared.
50.
I thought he was going to
like,
let him trot out there and do it.
Me too.
I thought he was. And then he didn't. You got to be better right there, Brent. You just got to be better right there. Okay. Anything else before we name MVPs?
Luke Elzenga, another great game.
Great game from Luke.
Yep.
I agree.
Oh, what was that atrocious kickoff from
That was pretty
Schmidt
bad. That was
that
pretty
went
bad.
out of bounds?
No
like
idea.
at the very end of the game.
Couldn't,
Like you
couldn't
can't
be
do
any
that.
worse. Couldn't be
You
any worse
couldn't.
than that extra point that Tulane kicked.
Ooh, that was
under
tough too.
the-
That was really tough.
I don't know if I've ever like really seen that.
I've never seen that before.
At this level of football,
No.
a kick that low go under a crossbar
bar.
like on a PAT. It's weird.
You
Never.
got to start worrying about concussions for the defensive players at that point. That's
Yeah.
nuts.
Yeah, it's
That's
crazy.
nuts.
He almost killed one of the Roughnecks. Like sailed past one of the Roughnecks' head. It was like, phew.
Didn't even
that.
consider that part of it. Yeah.
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 Oh, one thing I forgot to mention on this won't take long, but on
Yeah,
the
go ahead.
but on the offense, Jackson Arnold, does he just throw really low? Like, is this a thing?
Maybe.
Like,
think
I
he's
feel like
trying
it
to
gets
push his
batted every single time, and I don't understand why. The dude's like 6'4", right?
I think you gotta
6'1"?
learn how to
Yeah,
change
he's not
the
6'4".
I think
Okay,
you gotta
never
learn
mind.
how to change the arm angle a little bit.
Yeah,
I just don't think he does.
You guys are smarter at this than I am. I'm just like, why is it getting batted every time? Like, are we not doing a good job on the offensive line blocking these guys so they're able to get their arm up, or is he just like
It's a little bit everything.
incapable of throwing a little higher?
I think he hasn't really been playing dudes for a long time with the physicality to get up there and affect his throwing lanes. And it's something that we're going to see get tightened up throughout the season, I think.
Cool.
I think
that's where I land there.
I think part of it is also like learning how to be a quarterback and learning how to change arm angles and learning when you need to float stuff and not rocket it in there and change your tempo a little bit. I think that just comes with learning the position at a higher level. High school, you can get away with that when you're
Mhm.
better than everybody else. So yeah. All right.
All right.
MVPs of the week. My MVP, Matt said it. Des Malone had a great game. Des Malone's my MVP. Thought he was really great in the secondary. A big reason why the Tulane quarterback threw for under 200 yards. Des Malone, my MVP.
I'll go LVP. I'm gonna go.
Ooh.
It has to be better for next week. It's got to be the student section. You can't bail out in the.
It
fourth
was like
quarter.
100 degrees,
Doesn't
wasn't
matter.
it?
I don't
Doesn't
give a
matter.
rat's ass.
Yeah,
I was
I agree.
out there all 4 quarters in 100 plus. It wasn't even as hot as it has been. It's been a much cooler
Agreed.
summer.
Agreed.
That cannot fly for next week and heading to the SEC.
I don't think it will.
They have to be there no matter what. I don't give a rat's ass. You get out there, you sit out there and support this team who's heading into college game day and to the biggest game of the year. This team needs it. They need that energy from the crowd. What is home field advantage if there's nobody there cheering them on? LVP.
I remember several years ago, Mason, you were there. Your brother was there. Ryan, you might have been there. I think it was someone else. But anyway, we're in the back of Logie's just hanging out. And Logan starts speaking to this group of girls. And we asked them if they're going to the game. And they're like, we have tickets, but I don't think we're actually going to go. And that moment stuck in my head. We were like number 4 in the country at the time. And like we're playing West Virginia. So, okay, one thing, but we're the number 4 team in the country. And people who should be rowdying up the stands are so blah about it, are just so they don't understand how good Oklahoma has it. And so they don't roll out like they need to. And I'm with Matt, man. I don't care if it's hot. Stay out
No,
there.
I
We
don't
all
care either.
we all got sunburned. We
Yeah.
all got way too sunburned. We
Yeah.
had a good game going yesterday.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Pat, who's your MVP?
I'm going to go with Jackson Arnold, specifically how he responded to throwing a pick six, and then 2 drives later decides to run the ball 25 yards into the end zone, taking responsibility there. I loved that.
He had a good game on his feet, that's for sure. Ryan, who's your MVP?
Or Mason Thomas. That last quarter specifically. That is exactly what we need to see every quarter. So I don't know where he was the first couple quarters, but he played beautifully that last one, and those 3 sacks in a row were incredible. And we need to see that more often.
It looked amazing. Mark, who's your MVP? Round it out.
The Oklahoma Sooners, baby. We are 3-0 in a situation where I think after watching the games, we can all feel like there's a little bit of luck in getting to 3-0 here. We've looked incredible on defense, very question marky on offense, but Nick Anderson coming back. Maybe you get some more help elsewhere on offense, offensive line guys. That's going to be my MVP, is the 3-0 Oklahoma Sooners.
And with that, this post-game pod is in the books. Be sure to like, subscribe on our YouTube channel. Let us know who your MVP is down below, by the way. You can follow us on all of our social media at Program Guys with a Z, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all that good stuff. We will see you for a midweek pod as we get ready for the Tennessee Volunteers.
College game day. Woo!
College game day.
Patrick's
Gonna be
Volunteers.
a big day. Going to be a big day.
Is
Can't
Patrick going to wear gold or yellow?
Ooh, good
What's
question.
the question? Orange.
What?
Sorry.
Orange.
It's an orange.
Orange.
Yeah,
I apologize.
all right.
My Baylor in me is just.
Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah.
That's
Like the Venom
gonna
mask.
that's gonna do it. Pat, take us out.
Keep pushing it, baby.
3, 2, 1.
There's not one guy, one person in the history of this program that's bigger than the program.
What's better than this? Guys being dudes.